Hey everyone, we're going to be making magnetic collectibles. Let's get started. In order to create collectibles, you're going to need an actor. I'm just going to call this a base collectible BP. Going to open this up. So in here is where I'm going to do pretty much all the logic for the magnetic effect, and then I'm going to create child blueprints from this for our different collectibles. So in here, we're going to need a few things. We're going to be needing 2 sphere collisions. I'll tell you why in just a second. So there's 1, and use 2. So one of these I'm going to call the homing area, and the other one is going to be the destroy area. For the homing area, I'm just going to go over here into the details panel, and on the radius, I'm going to set it to 250. And the destroy area, I'm going to set it to 15. Okay, so what are these? These are sphere collisions. Um, Basically, just detects whenever something has collision with it. Uh, right here, we are going to go to the collision preset, and I'm going to do custom. This is where you can assign your collision. We have ignore, overlap, and block. I'm going to set everything to ignore except for pawn. I'm going to overlap pawn. What that means is anytime something collides with this, or I'm sorry, the only thing that can collide with this that it accepts and detects will be a pawn. That's what this means. And I'm going to do the same thing on destroy. Set this to custom, ignore, and then pawn overlap. Okay, so our destroy area is the collision for when this point reaches the player. Once the player interacts with this, it'll destroy itself. And the homing area is whenever the player enters this area, it'll begin to start that homing effect or magnetic effect. Alright, so on our homing area, sphere collision, we're going to go down here to on component begin overlap. It's doing basically what it says it's doing, is whenever we begin overlapping it, is this logic would be called. So in here, I'm going to do a branch, and I'm going to connect that up to this node here. And on this branch, I'm going to check if the other actor equals the player pawn. So what's happening here is on this node, we're getting some information returned, like the component, the actor, some other stuff. All we need is the other actor. This just tells me that what actor began this overlap event. And I want to make sure that it was the player before we start all our other logic. So that's that. Next, we're gonna create that homing away effect, and then it starts homing in. To do that, we're gonna get the actor's location, and we are gonna add to it, and we're gonna use the player pawn, and we're gonna get its actor rotation. And from here, using the rotation, we're going to get the forward vector. So basically, no matter the rotation, we're going to get a forward type of effect from it. And we're going to multiply this by, or we're going to do a multiply here off of our get forward vector. And we're going to convert this pin into a float. And I'm going to do 225. Basically, this is going to home away 225 units, I think it is in Unreal. So we're going to add that here. So what we're doing here is basically we need to get our actor location first as an initial point of reference, and then we add on top of that. So we're going to start from our current location and then move away from the player. And I'm going to set this to a variable called push away location. Sorry, you can't really see it down here. Push away location. And I'm going to connect this up to true, because earlier we want to check if it is the player. Because if this logic is true, then that means it's the player. Next, I'm going to do a sequence. You'll see why here in a little bit. First of all, I'm going to do a timeline. And I'm going to connect this up to play from start. And I'm going to rename this. You can do that by F2 on your keyboard. I'm going to rename this to home away from player. I'm going to open this up. And in here, we're going to add a new track, specifically a float track. I'm going to call this value. And the length of this timeline will be 0.4. Set that up here. Then I'm going to want to add 2 keys. So we're going to do a key at 0, 0. And then for the time, we're going to do 0.4 for our second key. This is going to be a value of 1. Currently, this has a linear interpolation. I'm going to set this to auto. And then you can go over here and zoom to fit. I'll just make it spread out so you can see it better. Alright, that's enough. That is all that we need in there. Alright, now for the logic. We're setting the actor's location. Sorry, that was my phone. Alright, now for setting the actor's location, we're going to drag this into update. And we're going to do a lerp vector. Our A is the starting point, B is the end point. This works by the alpha, which goes from 0 to 1. So we're going to get the actor location as our A point. And then our B point is going to be that variable we created earlier, push away location. And our alpha is going to be the value of the timeline. And we're going to drag this into here. So basically what's happening is as the timeline updates, it's going to call this, and it's going to lerp from the current actor location to the desired location that we set earlier. Alright. This then one here on the sequence and the finished are kind of connected. So these will be kind of all kind of the same thing. What we're going to do is we're going to create another timeline. I'm going to copy all of this, paste it down here. I'm going to rename this F2 on keyboard, rename. I'm going to call this home to player. Future Haze here to adjust the timeline. Okay, I wanted to do a quick little edit here. Inside home to player, set the length to 0.2. And we're going to go and grab the second key. And it's going to look like this by default. We just drag this down like this. Make sure it doesn't go below here. Alright, back to my past self. And we are going to do pretty much the same thing, except we're on our B. We're going to delete this, and we're going to get the player pawn again. And we can copy this right here, and so that we can get our player location. Put that in there. And so from our finished here, we're going to play from start. And from our then one, we are going to do a delay. And then 4 for the duration. And then we're going to drag out over here in our components category in our variables, home away from player. We're going to stop this. And then we're going to play from start. So what's happening here is it's just kind of like a check, just in case something goes wrong up here for some reason. We're going to stop this and then start our homing. Okay, so that is all for the kind of homing logic. Now we're going to create the actual like interaction with the player whenever we get close enough. To do that, we're going to create a child blueprint class from our base actor. I'm just going to call this test collectible. Going to open this up, and now we're going to use our destroy area, and we're going to go down here in our details panel, and we're going to do on begin overlap. And when we overlap, we're just going to do a simple print string. It's just so we can debug to know that it destroyed itself. I'm going to make this red so it's really easy to see. And then we're going to destroy actor. I'm going to go ahead and add a sphere in here just so we can see it in the level. I'm going to add that underneath the destroy area collision. And I'm going to size this down a bit. Do like 0.4. And I'm going to go ahead and set its collision to no collision. Or I'm going to do custom no collision, like that. Ignore. Alright, so we drag this into level. And if we play, so now if I get near, there you go. So I'll just show you guys that again. So as you get near, it's going to home away, and then it's going to home into you. Thank you so much for watching, and big shout out to my Patreon members. Consider supporting me on Patreon for access to early access builds and tutorial project files and much more. Thank you. Bye.